I would like to hand it over to our speaker today. Catherine is a social media branding and content strategist with over 20 years of experience in visual, written, and film content creation. We've been working with Catherine for a very long time, and her insight about this topic is, obviously very appreciated. So, Catherine, I want to thank you for making time for us today. So I'll just pass it on to you now.
Thanks so much, Tetson. But before you do, I think Dan has just joined us and he may want to say hello as well.
But hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Delahanty. I'm the Director of Community Development for Dime Community Bank, and we're happy to sponsor this series of webinars. Accompany Capital is a great partner of the banks. I'm also the former board chair. For those of you that don't know, Dime is a 150-year-old community bank, very active in the small business space. We are the second leading SBA lender in our market, but we're delighted to have this topic. I'm actually a little bit late because we were listening to an AI vendor help us potentially think of ways to take care of a process that my group works on more efficiently. So this topic, despite in addition to being in the news all the time, also is extremely relevant, whether you're a community bank or whether you're a small business just starting out, being able to think about what AI might be able to do for you. But thanks for the opportunity, and you have a great expert in Catherine to walk you through this.
So hello, everyone. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for that introduction. My name is Catherine Ventura, and I am a writer. So like everyone, I've been listening with a great deal of interest to whether or not my job will be eliminated by AI. So I think there's been a lot of information about it floating around, but the deeper I dig, the more excited I am by some of the opportunities it presents. So we're going to take a look at that today from mainly a content strategy point of view, but we'll be covering some other topics as well. So 3 months ago, this stuff is evolving so quickly. 3 months ago, I asked ChatGPT-3 to write a short introduction about me, Catherine Ventura, and this is what it came up with. Very generic. There aren't that many bios of me that exist off social media, and it does not gather information from social media. So it gave this really strict, generic, but very flattering description of me. So then, a couple of days ago, I asked the current iteration of ChatGPT, and it was a fascinating response because in reaction to a lot of the controversy that surrounds it, it starts with the huge disclaimer. As of 2021, it was no longer allowed to scrape. It's called scraping the web. Basically, ChatGPT has inhaled everything that's ever been on the internet and has that with a very fast processing speed at access. But in 2021, it had to stop that because there were some privacy issues and some basically copyright and plagiarism issues. So now it starts with a huge disclaimer saying, as of my knowledge cutoff, I don't have any specific information, but here's a generic introduction to anybody who does that for a living. And that right there is kind of key to what a lot of AI is. It is a gathering of everything it can possibly get on a topic or in a process and turning out the most logical and predictable next response to your question. And that's an important thing to remember. And at the end, note there's a second disclaimer. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it says, remember, this is a hypothetical introduction and might not accurately represent the real Catherine Ventura, although I think it might. So that's important to remember. The human evaluation is key when you're dealing with anything generated by AI. That said, what we'll be discussing today is what exactly it is and how you can use it. I'm going to go through a kind of a basic introduction. For those of you who are more expert, just bear with me. How it's already affecting our daily lives in ways we might not even realize. The important ways it can support your business, can help you, which I'm primarily talking about, and using AI to streamline content creation, and then potential challenges and those again at the end. So what is AI? This is a definition I kind of grabbed somewhere. I can't even remember, probably from Forbes, but from a business magazine. And it says artificial intelligence is a field, revolutionary and enabling, automate repetitive tasks, harnessing the power. My eyes start swimming after the first sentence. So what I did was, because of all the jargon, so what I did was ask ChatGPT to please rewrite this so it's easily understood by small business owners. And it's a little better. It's still the same information. So here's a pretty generic but boiled down version of it. It's easier to understand. Using AI, you can automate tasks that repeat often. It's like creating a computer that thinks it's human. Your business can find new ways to grow. Still pretty generic, but it's more understandable. So then I did the classic, please rewrite above for the smart sixth graders. It's like training a computer to think and make decisions like a human. Imagine having to do the same boring task over and over. AI can do that for you. Also, AI can look at a ton of information, much more than a human can handle. So this is already a little more understandable to someone like me who likes to read on a sixth grade level. But again, you notice it's repeating the same information over and over again. So it's not actually thinking. It is generating the most likely response from all of the information it's gathered from the internet. So humans still have work to do in the end for all of this. How are we already using AI? All AI algorithms are trained to perform specific tasks. Algorithm is a word you hear a lot. All that means is a pattern. An algorithm is a series of jobs that a computer is trained to do. So the algorithms in Apple Siri, every time you say, hey, Siri, artificial intelligence is answering you. Every time you say, Alexa, turn down the music, there's an artificial process taking place. IKEA's chatbots, we have a version of that at the right of the screen. Somebody named Jungle Skog, who starts with A in Swedish, is actually AI. It's a series of logical sequential questions with logical sequential answers. Netflix suggestions, all those costume dramas I keep getting steered toward. AI at work, by analyzing everybody who liked the same movies I did, what they watched next, and whether or not they liked them. And I appreciate that. Self-checkout has AI components, food delivery services, Grubhub, all using predictive models for things we wouldn't even think of as consumers, like which road to take to get to you fastest with your pizza. Teslas, all AI. Minecraft, if you have kids, almost all the games they're playing are powered by AI. Anytime there's a response from the game, that's artificial intelligence. And email, texting, and MS Word autocomplete, all AI. So it's already something that we're finding very useful. The current, kind of, oh my God, it's going to take over the world, kind of already has, but in ways that are useful for us. So AI is basically autocomplete on steroids. It draws from huge data sets and chooses the most probable next choices. It's predictive. It predicts what you probably want next, how you're going to finish a sentence. And generative, it gives you the answer. It chooses the most probable next choices. That's what it does. So how can it help your small business? I asked ChatGPT, please give me 5 bullet points that can help business owners grow their business. And its response is the most important different ways it can assist business owners vary greatly depending on the specifics of each business and their unique needs. However, these 5 points cover some key areas, right? So automating customer support, that's like the IKEA chatbot. If you are a larger business or part of a larger business, you will have access to resources that can do this for you. These are resources you pay for. These are enterprise level things that have a cost. A lot of this still is free, but automating customer support, although it does come with, there are programs that come with Shopify, for instance. So if you have a little store on Shopify, you'll have free access to a chatbot you can use. So that can be very helpful in sorting out questions so that you don't have to sort them yourself, because a lot of the answers can be automated. Content generation, we'll be talking about that. Can it really write for you? Market analysis, yeah. Can it take a huge amount of data like your mailing list and sort it into boroughs, sort it into male versus female if you've saved that, sort it into zip codes? Absolutely. And also who responds to what subject lines in your email, for instance. ChatGPT can do that. Email management, yes. There are email programs, and I'm noticing things like Constant Contact is starting to add them. I don't believe MailChimp has yet, but they're in the process of doing it. Ideation and brainstorming. Yeah. If you're stumped as a writer, if you're looking at that white page, ChatGPT and other AI programs aren't as good a writer as you are, but they can certainly get down something on paper for you to then edit. Other important ways. Scheduling and reminder services. A lot of that already exists. Data analysis, we mentioned. Automating repetitive tasks. Its utility really depends on your needs. So this is all very true. And my favorite application so far is alphabetizing. It's amazing. It alphabetizes in 10 seconds. So, that saves me a lot of time, for instance. So let's talk about marketing for a second. What is marketing? It real simply, you've got something, you want to know who needs it, where to find them, and then you need to tell them about it. It's that simple. That's all marketing is. Finding the people that need what you've got and talking to them so they can hear it where they're listening, right? So as a small business owner, you may already be using it without even knowing it. So as I mentioned, if you've got a restaurant and you're using Grubhub, that's streamlining your business. And if you're on Etsy or Shopify, chatbots. But it's using AI for content marketing that's currently poised to benefit small business owners the most, because that is not an expensive add-on subscription enterprise level use of AI. So what's content marketing? Content marketing is sharing valuable information with your potential customers, things they want to read, so they constantly return to you. If you just blast everyone with an ad, they're going to move right through it, and they're not going to want to follow you on social media, for instance. But if you have a history of sending useful tips or interesting information or fun stuff to your potential customers, that's content marketing, and that's more successful. So the recent release of AI writing and data task tools like ChatGPT, which has only been around a couple of months, fundamentally, less than a year, but it's kind of taking everything by storm. Visual content creation tools like Midjourney, my favorite, DALL-E. A lot of people use DALL-E, which is owned by the same ChatGPT developers. I find Midjourney is a lot more fun. This little icon was created with it. AI add-ons to pre-existing tools that you're already using. Canva, for instance, if you use Canva to create graphics, they are implementing new AI tools for you. Constant Contact, as I mentioned, and those can streamline the creation of marketing content and tools for small business owners. They can do it through serving as virtual assistants, primarily shortening the time it takes to perform basic tasks through research or data crunching. The thing you might hire an intern or a virtual assistant or somebody off location to do certain tasks for you, AI can do pretty effectively. So if you're a small business owner and you don't have that financial resources, it can be a lot of help. Information gathering and managing. I noticed right away, my feeling about ChatGPT is that it's a Google killer, because it can grab everything you're looking for quickly and summarize it, as opposed to listing a million sites you need to go to next. If you tell Siri to search the web for something, it won't give you the answer. It will give you websites. If you search Google, it will give you websites. If you ask ChatGPT, it will give you the answer. So I think it's Google that has to be a little worried about ChatGPT's potential. So information gathering and managing, really effective, but only up until 2021. Now, there are tools you can add on that will give you more recent results, but ChatGPT itself, as it stands now, has everything up till 2021, but it's still pretty great. Suggesting ideas, I mentioned this already, in first drafts, so that your job is simply amplifying and editing rather than starting from scratch. I think anyone who's ever had to write anything, even an email, has hit that wall where you just look at the screen and go, okay, how do I start here? It'll start for you. And that can be a tremendous help sometimes in terms of outlining a potential blog post or writing a formal letter or requesting something. So the important things before you take off and go wild with AI, you have to ask yourself, what kind of content and what kind of jobs are strategic for you to be trying to allocate? What kind of content generation is in line with your mission, USP, positioning, and brand voice? And what I mean there is, don't just start letting AI make pictures for you like this one if it has nothing to do with your business, or if the look and feel that randomly comes out of a graphic design AI program doesn't really match what you're trying to do. Just because it's new and fun doesn't make it appropriate. Can AI tools actually help you create the content that is strategic for you? What kind of platforms are appropriate? And how do you measure its success? So let's take a look at brand voice for a second here. This is Fenty. This is Rihanna's website. And she's got a really, really distinctive voice. Very brand appropriate, very fun. It's not clear whether or not an AI program could start writing this way for you. The only way to find out would be to enter a lot of data, a lot of the writing that was done in this voice into ChatGPT and say, write something else in this voice and see if it works. but it's a long shot. So that's a question to ask. It's something you have to do by trial and error to find out if it works for you. If your voice is a voice it can replicate. Can it reach your audience? Joe Rogan there on the lower right, he's got 11 million listeners on his podcast, 11 million. I'm not sure he really needs any help from AI. If your voice, if your podcast is your primary way of reaching people, people want to hear you talk. So there are certain tasks it might be valuable for. If you have a list of subscribers and you can find out where they live and use that to identify what topics they may be interested in regionally, okay, maybe it can help you do some research. But he's doing okay so far without using AI tools, maybe for advertising. But think about what platforms are your most important platforms and whether or not you actually need help with them. And also authenticity. So here's a young man who's become a huge influencer on TikTok, 65.3 million likes. And here he is with Bill Gates. They're sharing books. This is a really authentic approach. And TikTok tends to really value authenticity. Do you really want to automate that? I don't think you do. So you have to determine how important authenticity is before you decide if you're going to let, basically a robot, if you're going to let a computer program do research for you, create content for you, and make decisions. So with these caveats, let's take a look at what it can do for you. Oh, and finally, can it help you add value? These ladies have a couple of 100,000 followers on Instagram. They're astrologers, and every day they post a little astrological forecast. That's coming from humans, and that adds value to their brand. A computer can't do that for them. So let's take a quick look at the most common tools that a small business can use. There are image and video creation tools. Here's a list of a few. There are content and data creation tools. ChatGPT is the most prominent one right now, but there are a lot of different programs that are competing with them. My favorite is Grammarly, which is suddenly making itself available to write as well. You know the grammar is going to be good. So that's exciting. And then there are SEO optimization tools. Again, a lot of these are paid services. So I'm kind of staying away from, unless the CEO of Target is on this webinar. If so, let me know in the chat. I think we're going to stay with things that are more affordable for small businesses. A million companies are popping up that will help you with these things, but they're mainly subscription bases. But I'm going to show you how ChatGPT can help you with SEO as well. So let's take a look at that. So image creation, let's start with image creation, which is the most fun. Prompts are key. Artificial intelligence isn't intelligent, it's diligent. It evaluates enormous amounts of data to find probable solutions. So while it's fun, you really need to be as specific as possible, and it still may not give you what you want. Here, for instance, in Midjourney, I said a field of red poppies and a beautiful tree in bloom. It didn't occur to me that the tree would be blooming with poppies. So you have to be careful. That one needed a redo where I specified that there were white blossoms on the tree. So it's hit or miss, but it's a lot of fun. So for instance, simple visual prompt here was just sapphires in a champagne glass. These are 4 different AI generators for visual images. Midjourney, which is my favorite, is number 1. DALL-E, number 2. Night Cafe and Photos. See that they all gave very, very, very different responses to the same prompt. If you have a personal style, for instance, if you were into fantasy, Midjourney is really the way you want to go, because right now it's kind of dominated by a lot of graphic design and fantasy creators. So you have to experiment with the results, look for the kind of business you do and the kind of visual communication you want to be doing with your business. Here's another example. At his Mac, got very different responses. Midjourney gave me the ones I'm using throughout the presentation, although DALL-E did a pretty good job. Some of them are a little scary, and just a tip: if you try to avoid hands in any kind of AI, none of them can do hands very well. And here it's even better prompt. The more you give, the more you get. So this was a long prompt, which was digital graphic illustration, pink tones, a woman dressed in a business suit with a luggage bag, standing in the airport with planes in the background, use clean lines and bold colors to make a vivid impression, detailed, modern, sophisticated, professional, elegant. And all of these are kind of valid. Again, you can continue until you get the exact thing you want. But if this is the look and feel your brand is going for, remember to use as much information as you possibly can. Again, since a lot of these are just being swiped from the internet, you'll read a lot about copyright issues, artists have issues because their styles are being copied. Do a quick reverse Google image search to make sure this isn't being stolen directly from somebody else's intellectual property. This one appeared not to be. So this was a safe thing to use had I wanted to use it, because it doesn't exist anywhere else on the web, according to Google's reverse search. So this is the office of my dreams. I created this with Midjourney. The prompt was a sleek white home office with a view of the Italian hills, mid-century furniture, one stone wall with a large waterfall. Did not get that right. The stone wall is outside the office. I wanted it inside. That drains into a small mosaic pool, hyper-realistic. So you can get some very beautiful results. It's a lot of fun to play with. Let's talk about SEO, content creation now. So I'm using as an example Booney Cafe, which is an Accompany Capital client. Check them out. They're in Upper Manhattan. They're amazing. They have 3 locations. Can you tell me the top 10 keywords for a website for a neighborhood cafe in Upper Manhattan that serves and sells Ethiopian coffee sourced on small farms in Ethiopia, micro roasted in New York, as well as Ethiopian food? The keywords that should be ranking for on a Google search relating to ordering ground coffee and coffee beans online and in its 3 locations. Very, very, very specific prompt. And it gave me these responses, and they're pretty good. Again, it's got a little disclaimer at the end saying humans should take a look at this, right? Make sure this is appropriate for you. But these are not bad, and if you're just getting started with SEO, if you can't afford someone to hire someone for SEO, this is a pretty good start. You should make sure you have these keywords. So I asked it to regenerate it, including the concept of creating community around coffee, which is a very big part of their unique selling proposition. Absolutely, and incorporating those themes, differentiation, right? There we go. We've got some great responses. And then I asked to regenerate with the fact that it's ethically sourced. Got some more great ideas for SEO. Here's an example where it can be really helpful because you want the most common responses here. You don't want originality. You actually want to know what works best on Google so far, what the most commonly searched terms are. And so this is a really great application for small businesses. You get free SEO right here from ChatGPT. So then I invented a hypothetical Kenyan fashion business and asked for 10 keywords for a fashion business called Kenyan Flair. Same thing, but some really good responses. And then I asked it to regenerate, stressing that the trendy clothing is designed in New York from the imported fabrics because it didn't come through on the first round. Got another great list of potential SEO topics. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, SEO means words you should be including on your website so that you get found in a Google search for that. If I'm looking for trendy clothes, Kenyan fabric, if I'm the owner of this business, I want to turn up in search. And you do that by including these words on your website. So then I asked it to write an About Us page for Kenyan Flair, focusing on keyword number 8. Keyword number 8 was New York trendy Kenyan fabric clothes. Sure, I'd be happy to write that. Here we go. It wrote a pretty decent about Kenyan Flair, 6-paragraph kind of About Us page. Again, you'll want to read these after. It got me started. So in writing this, I'm not going to leave it as is, obviously. I'm going to go over it, make sure everything's right, change a few things. But gosh, what a time saver to have something to rewrite rather than starting from scratch. Remember, though, the human evaluation is always very important. And then I asked it to write a homepage copy, an outline for homepage copy, introducing it and including some of its unique selling propositions and keywords from the last group. And here we go. Wrote a traditional outline for homepage copy, including all this. This is the rest of the same list. Great thought starter for me or the owner of this hypothetical company. Would change a few things, but it's a great outline to begin with. I asked it to do it again, including that the hypothetical designers are a husband and wife team who recently immigrated to New York. Absolutely, ChatGPT answered, and it gave me a different headline where it's stressing the story of the owners. So once again, this is not your finished product, but it generated this in about, I would say 15 seconds, frankly. What a time saver. And then you as a human need to get to work to really personalize it and make sure it's what you want. Same thing here, right? It included trendy, unique designs from Jamil and Evelyn's unique vision. PR release. I gave it the hypothetical website launch and opening of a pop-up boutique, and I put it on the Lower East Side. on August 1st. Not only did it write me a fairly decent press release, it created it in the template of press releases. So if you've never written a press release in your life, you got one right here. I hope nobody who's on this webinar is a PR person, because, obviously they need to make a living too. But if you can't afford a good PR person, here's your outline right here. Again, changing words to make them appropriate for you. It even includes a place to put the contacts at the end. So you've got a perfect template right there. So the hypothetical owner, Evelyn, needs to do a welcome speech at the pop-up, or a little ChatGPT wrote a little welcome speech, again, for the owner to rewrite in her own voice. But there it is, all the important things to say. Again, 15 seconds of generation. I have sat in front of a blank piece of paper for about 15 minutes. I don't know about the rest of you, but this just saved me about 15 minutes. So that was great. Now let's talk about social media. Social media, because I am a social media content strategist. And so I am very, very much in favor of authentic voices. Nonetheless, again, things are easy to rewrite in your authentic voice. I asked it to create 5 Instagram posts about the Stanton Street pop-up. In terms of an event that's coming up, these are perfectly acceptable. They could be a little more in the voice of the owners. They are a little generic, but they are perfectly acceptable. You do want to be authentic on social media, but when you're announcing something that's coming up, I give this one a B, not an A, but a B, and that's not bad if you're busy. For fun, I asked you to generate 3 bad Instagram posts. This was fun. They're really terrible. Our tote bags are better than others. Come to get yours. # tote bags. So that was fun. It's nice to know it knows what ineffective marketing is as well. But again, remember, it probably got those by having accumulated information from websites pre-2021 that told you what not to do on social media. None of this is original. So here's where it gets interesting for strategies. Please suggest 25 Instagram accounts, including fashion journalists with an interest in new trends, influencers, and African singers and artists living in New York that would be strategic for Kenyan flair to connect with. Voila, not bad. These are genuine. I double checked them. I did verify these are real accounts on Instagram, and they are appropriate. It doesn't mean just go ahead and follow them. You still have to do the work. You still have to interact, et cetera, but not bad. Definitely start. I asked it to alphabetize. This is my favorite trick, like in 1 second. So that was amazing. And then I asked it to program that list in 3 columns for Excel: Instagram name, given name when known, and the description. Voila. So for tasks like these, this is why I said in the beginning that it's a great virtual assistant for these kind of onerous tasks. It's remarkable how much ChatGPT can do. It also programs. If you ask it to write a computer program, it will do it for you. If you tell it what you need done, it's pretty remarkable, the depth of its capabilities. So I asked it to suggest 5 Instagram accounts that Accompany Capital is not already following that would be strategic, right? So it said absolutely. Its response was connecting with relevant organizations is a fantastic way, et cetera. It said here are 5 hypothetical Instagram accounts that could be of strategic issue. The grammar wasn't great, but here they are. The problem is Accompany Capital is already following a lot of them. So I responded and said, please eliminate the lists it's already following. Sorry for the confusion. I don't have access to real-time data or the ability to interact with external databases, websites, or social media platforms. This means I, ChatGPT, can't check which accounts Accompany Capital is currently following. Okay, so good to know. It gave me a list of accounts and they were interested. And some of them might be worth checking out, but it can't get into social media sites to do current work for you. So in blog posts, idea generation, what are some of the top questions people have about choosing a home-based daycare? I noticed somebody in the group is a realtor. This would be a really great application of ChatGPT. What are people asking about who are thinking of moving to Jackson Heights? Things like that. Came up with this list, and I think this is a pretty decent list. What I could use this list for if I were writing blog posts for a daycare center is to write one about these, because these are clearly questions that are coming up, right? Parents want to know. So I suggested to ChatGPT to create a blog post combining 4 and 5. understanding daily routines and activities in home-based daycares. Here's an outline: introduction, importance of structured daily routine, typical routine, activities, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. Okay. Please regenerate, starting with a warm, friendly paragraph. One thing that ChatGPT is good at is imitating styles of how the happiness and growth of the reader's child. Here we go. Warm, friendly paragraph, brief explanation, support your child's development, etc. So give me a better outline for my intentions. I asked it to create an email to parents in a warm, friendly tone from Naomi, the hypothetical owner, telling parents what a pleasure it is to be entrusted with their kids, but she's leaving for 2 weeks in August to attend the wedding of her own daughter, but she's engaged someone who's worked with the children. All right, here we go. It's not going to do your writing for you, but it definitely is going to get you started. Here's a note from a child psychologist with a PhD, Naomi, giving her 4 ways she can prep for the kids before she leaves. Dear Naomi, understanding that change, even temporary, can be a source of anxiety. This is good stuff, right? And then please write a sensitive 5 sentences a parent can use to talk to their children. And here it goes. Like, I would never talk to my child this way, but I might use a variation of it. So when we say that it's a great idea starter or brainstormer, it's fun to see what ChatGPT comes up with, because it's things you might not have come up with yourself. And sometimes it's your response to it. No, I wouldn't do that. I would do this instead. That can really jumpstart your own creative process. We take a quick look at Jasper. I want to be mindful of time because I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to race through them. Oh my gosh. Template generators. This is helpful because, this is a paid platform. But, if you need to send a formal thank you note for a business meeting, those exist. You can just ask ChatGPT as well. Here's an example. These are fun. So, these are the tone exercises you could do. I asked it to write a description of the kinds of loans Accompany Capital can offer to immigrants, refugees, and other small business owners. By the way, even if you're not an immigrant, a refugee, or a woman, you can still come to Accompany Capital. Those are their specialties, but anyone can approach as a small business owner. So it wrote a little pitch, right? But then I asked it to write one to tarot readers, right? So at Accompany Capital, we understand you're not just running a business, but you're following your heart's calling. As a psychic and tarot reader, you have a unique gift to the world. Then I asked to write the same ad copy for a skateboarder. Yo, fellow skaters, if you're an immigrant refugee, you got to check out Accompany Capital's loans. They got your back. Hilarious, right? And again, that may not be the way you want to approach them, but it certainly gives you a fun way to start. Business versus hard sell pitch email. Time is running out. As a small business owner, you know that access to capital can make the difference in the success of your business. That's why we want to remind you about the financing options. That's the hard sell version versus the business version. I did one for Queens, specifically for people in Queens, specifically for people in Brighton Beach, right? So if you're targeting different areas, this can be extremely helpful for you. Red flags, though. And this is critically important. It makes hideous mistakes. AI is a generator. It is a C student. It grabs the most common, most frequent responses and gives you those. It's not an A student. You're an A student, right? It makes mistakes. It makes some terrible mistakes. So you really need to verify any piece of content that you get via artificial intelligence. It got the business loans wrong here. See this red flag? Business loans go to 350,000. I don't know where it got the 500,000, but not from the Accompany Capital website, right? Networking opportunities here, not so much. We're based in Jackson Heights. No, they're not. Accompany Capital has 2 home bases, one in Manhattan and one in Jackson Heights. So it's not fair to say they're based in Jackson Heights. They have an office in Jackson Heights. And we work with businesses across the city, including underserved neighborhoods like Brighton Beach. I think it's a stretch to call Brighton Beach underserved. And it's also not very diplomatic. So you really have to double check and make sure everything's true before you send out any content that's generated. Here's business-like versus enthusiastic. I always go for enthusiastic. Humor versus Gen Z. Hey, Gen Z entrepreneurs in New York, are you tired of struggling to get funding for your small business? Again, they use that got your back thing. Flexible and tailored, Jinsey. So whether you're starting a new business, excitement of growing your business, say goodbye to the stress of funding and hello to the excitement. So these are a lot of fun. So a final thing I want to touch on in terms of content is content crunching, summarizing. You can put a whole article into an AI platform like ChatGPT and ask it to summarize for you. So if you want to quickly review something and see if it's worth your time to read the whole thing, it's really good. And here's an example of it. Please summarize this article with 10 bullet points with the most important facts, right? About honeybee deaths. Here we go, right there. Please summarize in 4 paragraphs T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland. Did a pretty decent job. I only include the first 2. So, you know, you can ask it about erudite subjects too. It translates well. I recently had to write a business letter in Italian. And so I double checked mine in Google Translate just to make sure I wasn't making any mistakes. Google took it to the more familiar rather than formal tone. So I put it in ChatGPT and they did it correctly in a formal tone. So here we've got, we've trained a model called ChatGPT, etc., in Italian and in French, and it's pretty good. So consider it if you need some quick translations. Again, it's scraped the web in every language, so it's got the skills. Research. I have broccoli, ricotta, onions, Parmesan nuts, and some pantry staples. What can I make with those ingredients? It will tell you. It will tell you how to fix things in your house. It will look up facts for you. Again, double check, double check, double check. So let's talk about its limitations for content creation. AI tools, as I mentioned, generate copy based on previously created content and thinking, limiting their ability to truly stand up. It's not your best copy, but it's a start, okay? And if you're in a hurry and if you just need to get some basic business things out, go for it. But if you're trying to do imaginative marketing or marketing that really sets you apart, or copy that really is absolutely tailored to who you're sending it to, give it that little human once over before you send it out. Lack of context. AI tools may not be discerning enough to understand where content will be used, creating ineffective or off-targeting messaging. So for instance, referring to Jackson Heights as the headquarters and referring to Brighton Beach as underserved, no, not so much. Risk of errors, make mistakes in grammar, spelling, and syntax, as well as factual errors. And the factual errors is really important. And lack of authenticity. You can spot AI generated stuff. We've all gotten that letter that we knew was a form letter in the old days, and we've all gotten the letters that we knew were generated letters now from either in an ad or in a response, especially the GPT, the chatbots rather. The chatbots are clearly not humans, and it's pretty obvious. So there are very strong limitations. Always, always, always check for potential ownership issues. You don't want to be plagiarizing by accident. So if you have some copy you want to use, put it through Google to make sure that it doesn't turn up owned by somebody else. That ChatGPT, for instance, hasn't just grabbed somebody else's blog post and given you their language. You know, the classic case of that lawyer recently in the news who used it to write a brief and basically plagiarized another case. Like, don't be that guy, right? And the same thing for the image generation tools. Run them through Google's reverse image search to make sure they didn't just grab somebody else's work or plagiarize an artist in particular. Not fair and illegal. So some best practices: define your goals. If you know what your goals are, either if they're marketing or research or whatever, it can help you determine the types of content and the tools that can help you best achieve those goals and how to measure success. Don't try something just because it's new unless you've got the time or because everybody else is saying you have to do it. Make sure it really is supporting what your goals are right now. Know your brand, respect who you are and what you do and your target audience. Don't get carried away when an AI prompt leads you in the wrong direction. And don't get carried away using AI if that's going to ring false in content creation with your audience, if your audience really cares about your personal touch. Choose the right tools, determine which can best create or enhance the content you want to create, or which can serve your research needs. Direct input data, your brand guidelines, your customer data, your USPs to give it context. Adjust the prompts to get the output you are looking for. The more information you give it, there's an old data programmer expression, garbage in, garbage out. If you're not giving it sufficient information, you will get an insufficient answer. So if you really want it to mimic your voice, if you really want it to give you the research or the content generation results you want, give it as much information as you possibly can. Use it to draft. Don't think of it as your final product. Use AI writing tools as thought starters, first draft generators, and then edit the generated content to match your brand voice and strategy. Fact check, fact check, fact check, monitor results. It's fast and official, but it predicts based on what others have done. It may not be doing your best work for you. So don't accept average. Make sure the quality and the results you get from using it meet your standards. Even with something as simple as SEO, if you're not getting the results in views of your website that you want, get in there and think like, you are the best psychologist in terms of thinking like your own customer. What is your customer searching for? Maybe it may be a little different than what ChatGPT thinks it should be. And keep your sense of humor. We're only at the beginning. Many of the tools are still in beta and are a little funky and are continuing to iterate. So particularly with the visual generators, it's like using a slot machine. Yes, use it for small business growth, but remember the best content strategy is to add value with a compelling, authentic voice, not just the same language everybody else is using. Always be aware of your brand. Make sure your brand is present in anything you send out. Visual AI tools can create extraordinary images, but there is a learning curve. It takes a while. It's very addictive, but it takes time. You may not have that time. So don't jump in just because you think it's going to save you time when actually it's going to take a lot of your time to get good at it. Text-based predictive AI tools can be an excellent way to get started, but review it. Again, review it for voice authenticity and accuracy. Research for data crunching, absolutely, absolutely. But use your judgment too. Make sure it's actually reaching into the right places to give you the results you're looking for. There are many AI tools that will help you evaluate how successful your content is and help you to evaluate and optimize. Many, many, many. A lot of them are paid. If you have the money, go for it. But I've tried to go over some of the ones that you can use yourself. And stay tuned because it's changing every day. AI is like that intern you just hired. Yes, they went to Cornell and have an MBA from SUNY New Paltz, but they're an intern and they're not invested in your business, right? And ironically, I asked ChatGPT to tell me which schools in the SUNY system offer an MBA, and the answer was wrong. They didn't have New Paltz. So again, always, always, always verify that the results you're getting are good. You care more about your business than anyone else. So always review the results. Don't trust the results from any AI generator to be the best results you can create, to be correct even, but it's a great starter. Don't rely on automation. Stay present with your business because that can always be your most winning strategy. Here's a wonderful example of a monstrously big company, Nabisco, Oreos. When there was a power outage during the Super Bowl game, a couple of Super Bowls ago, they were live. They were working live with a room full of humans, and they sent out a tweet that was heard around the world because it was funny because so many people were following the Super Bowl on Twitter, and they generated a huge amount of very positive publicity for their company by being present, being there, responding authentically. That was something happening in real life. AI can never do that for you. So remember, it's a wonderful time saver, but humans always win in the end.